On this episode of AV Week, DSF joins DSE, value propositions, and AMX and Panopto. All this and more on this episode of AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 536, Simplify the Process.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Sennheiser. For over 75 years, Sennheiser has been a leader in pro audio and is now offering a wide variety of touchless and traditional audio solutions for both corporate and educational campus-wide audio.
And by Crestron.
Welcome to this episode of AV Week. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott, filling in for Mr. Albright for AVNation.tv. This week, I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Ms. Corey Schaefer. She is the Director of Alliances and Ecosystem at QSC. How you doing, Corey?
I'm doing great. Happy Thanksgiving week.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving week to you. This is Wednesday. We're recording this on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And luckily, Corey and Krista took a moment before flights and family time and all that jazz to hang out with me. Speaking of Christy, that's Christy Michelle. She is the Midwest Regional Manager for Surge X. How you doing, Christy?
Bless your heart, Matt. Christy
wow,
Michelle.
Already?
Yeah, already.
What did I say?
You said Michelle.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did it again. We just talked about this too.
I knew I was gonna drop a bless your. Listen, I'm back in Kentucky for Thanksgiving. Gobble gobble, everybody. So Matt, before we started, we pressed record.
You told me. You set me up.
I challenged Matt to
set
say
me
at
up
least
for failure.
one bless your heart and one I'm sorry.
We got it off right out of the top.
Yeah.
Right at the top, we got that out. That's fantastic. So yeah, if you are listening in the U.S. or if you celebrate Thanksgiving anywhere else, happy Thanksgiving. You'll hear this on Monday, so it's happy Cyber Monday, I guess. Yeah, all that fun stuff. I celebrate in Canada because I'm a double dipper. That's how it works. All right, let's kick this off with a story that comes to us from AVNation.tv. DSF, Digital Signage Federation, has announced a partnership with Questex for DSE 2022. They've both been partners in the past, but again, since DSE was acquired, this is the first time that DSF has announced that they're going to partner with them, be an association partner for DSE 2022, which is going to take place in Las Vegas, March 22nd through the 24th of, again, 2022. So, Corey, let me start with you on this. When DSE was sold, I don't want to say there was concerns, but there were questions, right? DSE had a bit of a tough time going into the pandemic and then through the pandemic, as most of the trade shows have had. But having DSF sign back on and being a part producing live education and some training and some other stuff at DSE, what does that mean to the support for DSE and what the industry is looking for from DSE?
Well, DSE has always been a really great show. With Questex purchasing them, there was uncertainty, right, about, what would happen, etc. So I think now announcing this partnership says that, hey, we're fully supported. And I think what DSE really gets through the Federation also is the endorsement of all the influencers that are involved with the Digital Signage Federation, right? So all those thought leaders, industry, and they're on the advisory board, and they see this, so they're going to be talking about Digital Signage Expo, and I think it'll be back very strongly. And this is an important partnership, really, because it just shows that that the industry supports it, right?
Yeah, I think that's I don't want to say the miss part, but DSF is important, but I don't think you can overlook the players in DSF because they're we'll say
Rich
vocal.
Ventura.
Yeah, they're very vocal. They're very vocal members, which is great to see. Christy, this is taking place in March of next year. We've seen a fair number of shows now go off. We've also seen some shows begin to get canceled again. I believe it was IBC just got canceled. But this is going to be, I think, probably, at least in our channel, the next major show in Vegas after CES in January. We don't necessarily know what CES is going to look like. They're doing some stuff. They're planning for a lot of in-person, but again, that still somewhat remains to be seen. What has to happen for DSE to be a successful show in March?
So if it's any consolation, I was at InfoComm in Orlando, which if we could keep, if we're going to rotate every year, if we can keep InfoComm in October in Orlando, that would be great. It was so, the weather was so nice. But back to business. So in going to InfoComm, I definitely saw a few tumbleweeds roll across the showroom floor. It was kind of bleak, and you know, on the positive side of things, it was really nice to see so many people there. But it was manufacturer heavy, and I think that, you know, if that is the litmus test for a Vegas show in March, it's not a positive one. However, you know, we're making strides every single day. It's really hard to have anything go off without a hitch in, you know, in Q4, coming up into Q4. Anyway, we're all busy with things. And I think we've gotten really, you know, into a habitual place with Zoom calls and such. But I think March would be a wonderful time and a wonderful opportunity for DSF and DSE to go off without a hitch. The only thing that I would say leading up is that I think that we really need to take a look at how CES is going to perform, and also tamper our expectations down as far as populating a show with a massive crowd. I just don't know if we need to have that big of a show anymore, where we're, you know, maybe if we look at smaller shows and we have more regional shows throughout the year within our industry, till we have smaller populations. And, you know, maybe Matt, you and Corey have been doing this a lot longer than I have. I think, Matt, I met you at my very first InfoComm 4 or 5 years ago, when I was back in the PR space. And I just don't know, when we're all there, we're meeting space to booth and so it's, and I know that the conversations about the Digital Signage Federation, but at the same time, it would be a larger conversation to have is, how do we go about meeting and really maximizing our time when we are in person together at these shows?
I'm going to chime in and say that to your comment at InfoComm, it was exhibitor heavy because, you know, they had already, you know, had made the commitment, but it also was very tech manager heavy on higher ed, which was really great to see. I was surprised at how much of that particular vertical showed up, you know, of course, Hetman and all the things happening in higher ed, I think was a key reason for that as well. But I think shows are going to be different. Matt and I have been doing this a while, but we've never been through a pandemic like this, right? So I think what's likely going to happen is, as we go through the holidays, we'll probably see a spike in COVID. So that might affect CES, and then, you know, then it might slow down a bit, right, before Digital Signage Expo. But I think we're never going to see shows the way they used to be. I think they'll be hybrid. I think every organization, I know mine, Christy, I don't know how yours is doing it, but mine has completely rethought how we show up, and we're just doing it differently.
I was going to ask, how can you give me an example of how, you know, QSIS is reimagining their presence at? I'm curious to know as a manufacturer too.
Yeah, so we will take less staff and have less of a footprint, and we will do as much as we can to make it hybrid.
Corey, let me ask you this just before we change topics for a second. One of the things that I'm most curious about with DSE is they are very international, right? It is the major manufacturers are almost all international manufacturers. Will that play into the success of this year's show?
Yes.
Well, all right then.
Right, because of the COVID numbers, like, you know, with what's happening in Germany and you know, Italy, etc. So and now we've got we'll have to. The news will still be following what happened in the holidays, and some organizations are just going to say we're not going to risk putting people on planes, right? So sometimes it's the employees concerned about going because, now we're getting vaccines at the, down to the age of 5, I think, but there are families that have children that are younger and they're concerned about bringing something back. There are organizations that are just concerned about, the health and well-being of their employees. And internationally, COVID just continues to spike and dip, in all places of the world, right? So I think we're still going to be carrying that news a bit as we enter early 2022. And we're all just going to have to find a way to go, hey, this is the way it is, for the foreseeable future.
You almost said new normal, Corey.
Thank you for not.
I know.
Thank you for not. Hey, thanks for watching the first segment of this week's episode. To catch the entire show, please click the link below or visit avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.